Happy Wednesday to everybody. Woo! We'll be with you till 7 o'clock. Gamble was lit. Were they at the XL today? XL had the women playing, but we'll start with the Georgetown game. Georgetown came wanting to stop their losing streak in the Big East, which I think is at 21 games. Now it's at 22. But they came out smoking, and in the second half made it a very interesting, uneasy feeling for Uconn fans when they took a 7-point lead. But they made the switch. They put Klingon and Calcaterra in there and sat down some of the guys that were missing threes, and all of a sudden lightning struck, and the Uconn men's team did what they normally do. They went on a hot streak, took the lead, never relinquished it, never looked back, and they win by 11. But Primo Spears was awesome. Cook did his 10 points, did what he usually does. He hit a couple threes or whatever, but the Uconn has a much deeper team, and when you can put in almost an entire new squad, A squad, B squad, doesn't matter who you put in there, they can all score, they can all rebound, they can absolutely light the world on fire. That's why they're 13-0 and number 2 in the country, because they have a solid team all the way through.
Yeah, I love watching this team play, man. I mean, 1 through 12, it does feel so deep. And the 6th guy to the 10th guy, you're not losing anything. Nope. I mean, you're really not. I think there's some talent in different parts of every player that we have that's unique. But when you can bring in Joey Calcaterra off the bench in the second half, and he looks like he could be the leading scorer on the team throughout the season in those 5 minutes, it's amazing to watch. I loved the game, how just it was all set up. And we were trying to tell you folks that there is some personal business within this game, whether it was coming from a Cook or Primo from the Georgetown side, or really from Dan Hurley and losing these guys, right, and they could have possibly been on the team. But I thought the play of the game, it just started real early for me. I literally got shooken up by this. A Cook is a phenomenal shot blocker, and we knew that, from his days even being – remember when he was like 17, 18, he wasn't on the team yet, but he was still practicing. Right. Like, we knew how good this guy is. And when he blocked Jordan Hawkins, it was just a phenomenal block. Like, tip your cap. Hawkins had to take it up strong. You have to. And sometimes you're going to lose to a guy like a Cook.
Right.
Got blocked, and any time you get blocked like that, it's going to be awkward coming down. He came down kind of funny. A Cook knew before anyone else that Jordan Hawkins needed some trainer attention, and was the one who basically checked on his old friend Jordan Hawkins, right, and made sure that he had training staff coming over from UConn side. The good sportsmanship right there, I'm a sucker for it, man. I just thought it was some of the best stuff in Big East basketball. But that's what that was last night, was Big East basketball.
Oh, yeah.
And with the crowd ending that run, I thought timeouts were taken real well by both benches. I thought Patrick Ewing took some good timeouts, but really Dan Hurley to settle his guys down when Georgetown would go on a run. I just thought a very, very good basketball game, Big East basketball game. And buckle up, because it doesn't matter if you're taking on the worst team in this league or the best team in this league. It is going to be 40 minutes of fun. And that's what it was last night in Gamble. Great to get the win. I just thought it was a well-fought game that really tested them for the first time.
Well, and just like I've said about the women, and this has gone on the past 2 decades, is you're wearing a target on you. Well, now when you're 13-0, you got a target on you. And everybody wants to take that off of you. They want to beat you, and they want to measure up against you. And Georgetown, who was god-awful last year, they have used the transfer portal. They've gotten people to come to their school, and they're still a little short. And they know they have some work to do. But I'll tell you what, this team under Patrick Ewing came to play last night, and honestly – they had a great disruption. They were making us take bad threes, and until we were able to get the ball back inside, we really, it wasn't much of a ball game. Georgetown was going to take that game, so adjustments needed to be made. But every game now, UConn has to understand everybody wants to wipe you out. And you've got to come and ready to fight. You got to bring your A game. And thank God Calcaterra came in and Joey was hitting those buckets, because even the play that sticks out for me was a little give and go by Sonogo, where he catches it with one hand and he's able to lay it in. I mean, that's just court awareness. And, we've got guys that are athletes. We've got guys that know how to score. When Sonogo and the team needed a bucket, he was able to get them. And then the 9 minutes, it seemed like it was 20 minutes, but the 9 minutes that Klingon came in there with the rebounds and the altering of shots, the guy is just such a disruptor. But I think the play of the game for me, which shows this guy's athletic ability, is Andre Jackson when he was basically a give and go. He inbounds the ball. He gives it to Klingon. Klingon hands it to him. He takes 4 steps and he dunks it, running away from a Georgetown defender. That kid, he doesn't know how talented he is. If he can work on his short game and work on taking some 15-footers, the world is his oyster. That kid is above the rim. One time an alley-oop, his head is above the rim. Yeah. And he's so deep he can't put the ball in the rim because his head's in the rim. And he missed the shot. But you understand, but this guy, he reminds me of a better version of Kenny Walker that watched when I was growing up and played with the Knicks. That Andre Jackson is one of the most electric players we've had in a long time, if ever.
Totally agree with that. Totally agree. I love watching him play defense just as much as I like watching him play offense. The turnover to assist ratio is off the charts for this team. You got to tip your cap to Georgetown in the run that they had coming out of the second half. That was just some good basketball, and they were knocking down some shots, and that's what caused that run. It was just hitting shots and taking good shots. For UConn to stay within that run and then get one on themselves is really just doing all the little things right, not turning the ball over to give them extra opportunities and to making good passes and setting up guys to take high percentage shots, those being three-pointers as well. 7 turnovers for the UConn Husky men's basketball team. I've seen guys get 7 turnovers. Teams getting 7 turnovers in a conference game where they were losing in the second half. You got to applaud that. 24 assists to go with those 7 turnovers.
Yeah, but they out-rebounded the crap out of us 40-28.
Yeah,
which is very impressive.
They sure did, and that's what kept them in the ball game. I really like that Wahab guy that they have. He kind of plays all over the place, more down low than so. He had 9 rebounds, 16 and 9. Georgetown's gotten a lot better than last year. Georgetown's going to beat some teams. They're not the doormat of the Big East. They're not anymore. And it was a lot of fun for me and for you watching Primo. That kid, I know he had this date circled. I know he wanted to play his best game against UConn. And he started right off the bat with a beautiful spin move and a layup. And then he had that 40-foot lob to a Cook. That was pretty. But Georgetown, they're going to win some basketball games in the Big East this year.
The biggest news of the day, obviously, it happened last night. People are still in shock this morning. Hearing Carlos Correa, we gave you the news that he did not pass his physical with the San Francisco Giants. They had declined to announce him and signed him to a 13-year, $350 million deal. While Steve Cohen was in Hawaii, he got a phone call that, Correa is back on the market, and Steve Cohen said, good. Let's pick it up where we left off, which was 12 years, $315 million. Scott Boras and Carlos Correa said, okay. I don't know what the verbiage is about the physical and whether or not they're going to even give him a physical, but it looks like Carlos Correa goes from the Giants to the Mets in less than a couple of hours, and they all of a sudden have one of the best left side of any infield in the major leagues. Now, would I give him 12 years? Absolutely not. But to get a guy to come to New York, just like if you try to get a guy to Toronto, you're going to have to overpay and give them an extension in years. So I would go maybe 8 years on that guy at his age, but to go to 12 years, I don't know what you're going to get from the last 4 or 5 years, but it doesn't matter. If you get 5, 6, 7 good years out of Carlos Correa and Lindor and Alonso and Marte and Nimmo coming back, I mean, that's really what you want. But you're also going to have to put up pitching. You lost 70 starts and 42 team wins when you got rid of Walker and Bassett and DeGrom. And usually DeGrom's better for more wins. So about half of their wins last year are not on that staff. And so you still have to have somebody pitch those games. And you've got a 39-year-old in Verlander. Scherzer pitched about 20 starts last year. So they're going to have to get those innings from somewhere else. So scoring runs and playing defense, not a problem. All the other stuff, they're going to have to work on it.
What is it, like 806 million in free agency right now with Steve Cohen and the Mets?
Yeah, $800 million, but that's not even their biggest problem. Their biggest problem will be their payroll next year. They are going to be hit with $111 million in luxury tax. That will make their payroll $395 million in 2023. That's at right now, and they're not. I don't think they're done. I still think they need either a reliever because Seth Lugo is leaving, and unless they bring him back, he's an innings eater. They still need somebody. Again, this Senga guy that they brought in, he pitched 145 innings last year. Okay, so he was basically a DeGrom last year. He had 11 wins in the Japanese league. So, I mean, you still have some work to do when it comes to the pitching side of this. So, yes, you spent $800 million, and that'll be over the next decade. But next year alone, they have doubled, and by far, they will have the highest luxury tax hit. As Henry Bieniemy said, their luxury tax will be more than 10 teams' payrolls in Major League Baseball this year at $111 million.
Not my money, not my team. I'm happy for the Correa family. I'm happy for the Bogarts family. I'm happy for the Tatis Jr. family, the Swanson family. I'm happy for the Nimos. I think the grandchildren of all those families should be high-fiving more so than any Mets fans or Cohen or anyone who wants to win baseball games. Like, it's one thing to buy the team, the all-star team that Cohen's trying to buy. That's great. He wants to win championships, right? I don't know if this is the way to do it. I would rather have a bunch of guys who are actually hungry than guys who are fed. The guys who are fed right here on this baseball team are so fed. So fed.
Yep.
Who's hungry? Alonso? What are you going to pay him? Ha! I don't know. I just don't think that you have a bunch of motivated guys to win a World Series now. I think you have a motivated owner who's trying to pay his way to that World Series.
Right.
But I don't know if that produces a great baseball team.
I agree with you.
I don't know.
I agree with you. And you did sign Jose Quintana, but he's old. But Correa was 315, Nimmo was 162, Edwin Diaz was 102, Verlander 86, Senga 75, plus the 25 to have lunch. Quintana was 26, Narvaez was 15, Ottavino is back for 14 and a half, and then Dave Robertson comes in for $10 million, like you said, $806.1 million for those players. And hopefully it wins you a couple of championships, not just one. I mean, you're looking at 10 years on some of these guys. Nimmo and some of these other guys, 6, 7, 8 years. Right. I mean, I look at the big picture. I look at down the road as, listen, Giancarlo Stanton had more talent than almost all of these guys that are getting these record deals when he hit like 59 home runs and got $325 million. It immediately went down. His statistics immediately, because everybody, as you hit 30, it starts to go down. I can't remember who it was, and I apologize, talked about the best over 34-year-old player this year in the major leagues was Paul Goldschmidt. Everybody else was not that good. So when you hit about 33, 34, 35, unless you're taking some kinds of PEDs, your production's going to go down. So, yes, Correa is 28 years old. You've got Judge is 31 years old, but I worry about the back end of those deals. You're talking about the last 5 years. What do you do with that guy? Because he's an aging superstar. Well, he still wants to play, and he's still making $35 million a year. He doesn't want to take a DH role. This is one of the problems with JD Martinez this year. JD Martinez wants to play the field. We don't want you to play the field. I want to play the field. You know what? You're a free agent. Go. Don't come back. We'll bring in another aging guy in Justin Turner, and we'll give him money to do what you were doing. It's kind of like you're robbing Peter to pay Paul all the time, and especially at the end of these deals. And if you're a Mets fan today, you're going, okay, the first 5 years of these contracts are going to be great.
Right.
The last 7 on a Correa, and if he's anywhere as bitter as he was when he was cheating with the Astros, you're in for a lot of fun. He's not going to want to talk to the press. You think Kyrie Irving is a nasty human being? Wait till you listen to this Correa cat especially now that you paid him $315 million to have an attitude.
I totally agree with you, especially if we are partners in owning our own baseball team. However, the different dynamic here in this Mets situation is you got an owner who does not care about his return on investment other than the World Series, meaning individually with these players, he will eat that. That's fine. You want me to eat 7 years and $100 million with the guy? Whatever, man. I got that. That's chump change. Did it with Robbie Cano. Already did it with Robbie Cano. So with a lot of other teams, Red Sox for sure, my Cubbies for sure, they are thinking about the back end of eating money. But this Cohen guy, if Verlander's arm falls off in the opening day, yes, it's going to be a detriment to his plan of winning a World Series, but it's not going to hurt his bank account. He could care less. He'll eat that money.
It'll start to hurt. That 100.
I hope
cutting
so.
Cutting a check. See, George Steinbrenner was a billionaire.
Yeah.
And George hated funding the Kansas City Royals. I listened to it when we were negotiating a CBA. And he said, why in the hell should I give them money for me to run my operation? And even though I'm making money and we're doing well and the Yes Network's doing well, they're not doing anything. They're not putting more money in. That's why you have in the collective bargaining agreement, they're supposed to put some of that money into the product on the field. And that's why Giancarlo Stanton got such a huge whopping deal for one guy. And again, that doesn't help all the other guys that are trying to make some money on that team. And here was the thing with Steinbrenner. He's like, listen, the 1980s, he poured so much money into that team, and they didn't win any championships. And he got ticked. And he rightfully had every right to be upset. And I think that Cohen's going to get to the point, not just of that, but when you look at that $111 million that he's going to pay into that luxury tax, he's going to be going, what for? He's going to start to figure out, I just got into this game late, but these owners, they made a bad collective bargaining agreement deal. We need a salary cap, we need a floor, and everybody should be playing by the same rules, but they don't. You've got the Pirates, you've got the Reds, you've got so many of these teams. The Royals right now have gone backward, where they're like, listen, we're just going to take in the $200 million. We'll spend $50 on payroll, and we're gonna walk away with the $150
They'll make
million.
a profit.
That's right. So a lot of these teams right now are playing their own rules, and Cohen's going to be like, I don't want to give you. I don't mind paying the players. Why am I paying you $110 million to go $111 million to go what, in your pocket? So that's where he will get concerned, and it'll be in the next couple of years when he starts to write those checks. So the writing the checks to the players, I don't think that's a problem. I think he's not worried about whether he gets a return on his investment. It's here's $111 million that's just going for nothing. It's going into someone else's pocket. That's going to tick him off because they're not helping him. They're not reciprocating.
And he's a businessman at the end of the day, as much as he's a Mets fan. The one thing, too, that doesn't fit into this equation yet that it does for the Red Sox and the Yankees is a team like the Tampa Bay Rays. When you've got a team in your neighborhood that is doing it with a $200 million less payroll, then you start asking people, what the hell? Right now, with the Phillies making the runner-up slot in the World Series, paying stupid money, Cohen's neighborhood's like, that's the answer. That's what we got to do. Wait until the Braves start winning that division on a consistent basis again. Wait until the Florida Marlins sweep the Mets and actually win some ball games. Then maybe he will point around and be like, why in the hell did I spend $800 million to not win this division? Forget the World Series. This division is getting won by lesser than payrolls. And that's what I believe brought Chaim Bloom to Boston. That's what I believe has been all this nickel and dime stuff for the New York Yankees in the last couple of years. So until he's got that kind of competition in that division that's not spending the buku bucks he is, then also it will start turning his head the other direction. But right now, man, he's on a shopping spree, and he's winning that game.
And if you're the New York Yankees, trust me, you're not feeling that great right now either. All the money you just spent in getting Rodon and getting Judge back, your payroll for this year right now is at $293 million with your luxury tax.
Puts a lot of pressure in New York City baseball, baby. It's going to be a fun summer.
A lot of money being spent on these ball players. All right, we'll take a quick break. We'll come back. Our favorite guy, Kevin Kernan from Ball9.com. Let's see what he thinks of all of this money and Carlos Correa coming to the New York Mets next on the Rob Dibble Show with Ben Darnell on your afternoon drive. Kurt Kaplan on the ones and twos.